Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to Mayday Mayhem 2015 here on ColoradoSports.TV. I am Sean Monahan, a.k.a. Wilhelm Scream.
I'm Julia Sleazer, a.k.a. Julia Sleazer.
It's magic how your parents just named you that as perfect derby name.
Yeah.
We are getting ready to call the bout between the Duke City Muñecas Muertas and the Winnipeg Roller Derby All-Stars.
Let's go ahead and run through the roster for Duke City. We've got number 10, Banff, 11, Killer Queen, 187, Doom De Doom, 311, Betona Brat, 34, Holly Chamberlain, 511, Seamslayer, 6, Leia Featherstone, 708, Razorblade, 713, Jerk of All Skates, 80D, Meat Meat, 86, Death Row, 9, Kills Inferno, 91, Gabriella Kem, and FU2, Swearin' Marie.
And for Winnipeg, we've got 055, Flemme Fatale, 1107, Scar to Beat You, 1108, D3PO, 117, Girl Meet, number 14, Demanda Brawl, 204, Lex Go, 206, Pain Goodall, 22, Tenacious V, 411, Pint Size Poison, number 52, Missile Behaved, 613, Rants in Your Pants, 63, Put It on My Tab, number 9, Sinfully Sweet, and rounding out the roster is number 99, Threatsky.
So we saw Winnipeg earlier play against Slaughterhouse, and it was indeed a slaughter, but not in the direction that you might think. Slaughterhouse came out 66 to Winnipeg's 390. Winnipeg currently is full WFTDA, but they appear not to be ranked, whereas we've got Duke City sitting at 115. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, if it's going to be more of the same absolute brutality, if we're going to have a little more even match this time.
Yeah, Winnipeg coming in unranked because they've only played one sanctioned bout so far before this tournament.
Okay.
So they haven't actually gotten enough time since the most recent rankings release. This will change after this weekend. Right now, they're currently coming in unranked. Flat Track Stats making an early guess that they'll come in around number 93.
Nice. That's a pretty nice way to enter rankings. All right, we got play underway. Winnipeg out there in the purple, Duke in black, and it is Winnipeg lead jammer.
As number 1107, Scar to Beat You, was a prominent jammer in the game against Slaughterhouse earlier.
Ooh, she is.
That is Seamslayer jamming for the Muñecas Muertas from Duke City in the black and green.
Seamslayer just now through on her initial as Scar to Beat You comes through on her second scoring pass. I think am I seeing 4 up?
That is 4 deep.
All right.
Total of 9 points so far. Winnipeg taking an early 9-0 lead. 29 minutes, 7 seconds left in the first half. It'll be interesting. Duke also winning earlier today in their game against Pueblo.
Yeah?
That was a score of 222 to 151.
Nice.
So right now, both of these teams looking for that inside track to be the number 1 seed in Group 2.
Got off to a fast back. Duke City is lead. That's number 10, Banff.
Get used to the Banffs.
Yeah, Banff just bamfed her way through the pack, picking up lead jammer stats. Put it on my tab, jamming for Winnipeg, trying to play catch-up.
See if it was called off in time. It looks like it was not called off in time to stop Winnipeg from picking anything up. Winnipeg picks up 1 point. Oop, nope, I'm sorry. I'm lying. No, I'm telling the truth. It's great. 1 point put on the board by Winnipeg. 3 more points for Duke City, now putting Duke on the board. So we are 3-10 with just over 28 minutes left in this half.
Yeah, so far, very close, but it's really early to tell. It's only the second jam in. Still a lot of time left. Winnipeg, the only team that's been able to put together 2 scoring passes in 1 jam so far. We'll see what the third jam holds.
Winnipeg's jammer trying her best to get through. That's Lex Go, number 204, lead for Winnipeg as Duke City loses one of their blockers to the box.
And that is 713. Jerk of all skates jamming for Duke City, trying to fight through the pack.
And she's taking quite a beating, almost knocked out to the inside, manages to stay up, then does get knocked out to the inside. She's going to be recycled back, but not terribly far. Oh, it looks like she is being called to the box on a low block, so this is going to turn into a power jam for Winnipeg.
And Winnipeg very effective on the power jam. When watching them against Slaughterhouse, they were able to really take advantage of the opposing team's jammer penalties and pick up a pile of points. Looks like that's something that Lex Go is going to try and do right now, and there's 5 in the air.
Her teammates just flanking the track, waiting for their jammer to approach so they can bust up Duke City's walls. Pack at an absolute standstill before that.
And Flemme Fatale just coming crashing in, creating enough of a seam to allow Lex Go to try and push ahead. And now we see that the Duke City jammer, that Jerk is back on the track. Jerk of all skates trying to fight through, but the purple wall just sealed itself up very quickly.
They had good awareness of when she was standing in the box and went ahead and got into formation and just waited, making their own jammer have to push through, which she has not, or she just now is coming out of this last scoring pass. Their formation in the back, capturing that jammer and effectively holding her back. That is a 19-point jam for Winnipeg, bringing them a substantial lead at this point, 3-29 in favor of Winnipeg.
And 4 minutes gone so far. We're seeing that penalties early on definitely playing a part in it. We'll see if they play a part further on as the game progresses. But also just the way that defense has come together, and Winnipeg strong defense against Slaughterhouse, seeing that they're presenting another strong defense against Duke and really shutting down the Duke Jammers.
This same formation as they had set up when she was coming out of the box, this sort of square made with all their bodies that kind of moves around, is really effective of keeping ADD back. That's Meep out there for Duke.
And Pint-Sized Poison jamming for Winnipeg. And looks like they're... Meep is going to be lead jammer. Pint-Sized Poison picking up a track cut penalty. That's going to make this a power jam for the Muñeques Muertas.
Pint-Sized Poison getting a penalty, so
Winnipeg with that same formation that I mentioned just a minute ago. This looks to be a favored strategy of theirs, and it's effective, so why not? So they've left one blocker behind as sort of a bridge, but Meep is through. That's 5 in the sky for Duke as they lose, or as Winnipeg loses one of the blockers to the box. This power jam is over, though, as Winnipeg's jammer re-enters play up against a Duke wall in the back. Winnipeg going up front, going a little bit out of play, having to release Meep, so she's through with another 5-point pass.
Now Pint-Sized Poison coming back into the back of the pack and struggling right now with the Duke wall. Duke using some of that bracing strategy as well that Winnipeg's been using it just as effectively. Also, we're seeing good movement within those braces by the teams to prevent a multiplayer block from being called.
There has been a star pass on behalf of Winnipeg. That is 11:08 D3PO. When that jam is going to end before I think she does any damage. That last pass 0-0. But that was a 14-point jam for Duke City, which just last jam, it was a 19-point jam for Winnipeg. So both teams very capable of having some high-scoring jams if they put their minds to it.
Yeah, and the one through line, the similarity in both of those jams was that both were power jams for at least part of it.
Yeah.
But Duke didn't get all those points on the power jam. They were using a very effective defense as well to slow down the Winnipeg jammer and keep her from getting free. We'll see what happens this time around when we've got Skartu Bichu jamming for Winnipeg. Skartu Bichu picking up lead jammer status. And appears to be Seam Slayer jamming for Duke City. Skartu Bichu trying to jump the apex, doesn't land it, has good awareness. She crawls her way back on the track and back behind the pack, does not want to pick up a track cut and give an opportunity for Duke City to not just complete the comeback, but maybe take a sizable lead with the way the power jams have been going.
Skartu facing off herself against Duke's remaining blockers, finally pushes her way through, picking up 5 points for Winnipeg. They are at a standstill on the track. Both teams ready for Winnipeg's jammer to come through. This is now power jam to Winnipeg. Believe that was a low block called on Duke City's jammer.
Yeah, but she's not going to spend a lot of time in the penalty box because Skartubicu picked up a track cut penalty. That's going to lead to a jammer swap, so Seam Slayer's going to be back up on the track very quickly, and full 2-minute jam since both jammers spent a little bit of time in the box.
True story.
It also means we won't be without the services of Skartubicu very long for Winnipeg. She'll be released relatively quickly as well.
And here she comes, in fact. Duke City hanging back, waiting for her. Lined up in a 4-wall. She tries to spin around on the inside and is knocked back down by Doom. So she's having to try to try that again. She goes out of bounds on the inside one more time, and she's slowly making her way.
And Skartubicu has passed the star off to Flem Fatale, currently the inactive jammer, now active. The clock runs out. Full 2 minutes are gone.
Duke City able to pick up 3 points.
Before these final scores being added, looks until the scoreboard's updated, it was standing with Winnipeg having doubled up on Duke City. Now that's slightly changed. Winnipeg not quite doubling up on Duke City. Score of 38-20, just under 21 minutes to go.
Put it on my tab. Now jamming for Winnipeg. She had a lot of points put on her tab in the previous game. Sorry, everyone. I apologize.
It's going to be number 10, Bamp for Duke City is your lead jammer. Opposing jammer is Put It On My Tab, number 63 from Winnipeg. Trying to muscle her way through the pack. Boy, she has a really fast reaction to what word am I looking for? She pops up very quickly.
Kind of like a bouncy ball, you could almost say. The Winnipeg Jammers, they're very good at lateral movement as well.
Yeah.
They'll go east and west to find that opening, and then they can have this ability to just turn on a second gear, get the jets going to move north-south and grab points. But Duke City grabbed 4 points.
Oh, looks like they grabbed 5. Unless, nope, lies. 4. That itchy point assigning finger.
Well, another thing that makes this interesting in the contest between these two teams is at this tournament, at Mayday Mayhem 2015, there's the team that has been in WFTDA the longest against the team that has been in WFTDA the shortest. Duke City, one of the founding members of WFTDA. Winnipeg's only been a member since December.
Ooh, some hard hits. That is Lex 204 bouncing off of Duke City's blockers, but making it back up, then flying through the pack. She is finally through on her initial. This is a power jam now for Winnipeg. Duke's jammer had been called lead, so we will have the full 2 minutes, and she's now sitting in the box for her back blocks. Lex coming through on her first scoring pass, picking up 5 points for Winnipeg.
A jerk of all skates. Any points she might have picked up before have now been eliminated through Lex Go, grabbing all 5 on her initial scoring pass.
There's a lot of jammers very good at that. Very good at that.
Well, by the difference in the score. Any sort of a gain is now eliminated.
True facts. Sorry, I'm making faces at Wilhelm.
It's not that the points don't count. It's that the cutting down into the Winnipeg lead is gone.
Right. I got you. It looks like there was going to be a star pass for Winnipeg that was dropped on the way to the box. So there's currently no one jamming for Winnipeg. The original jammer picking it back up. That is 204 Lex.
It looks like Flem Fatale was called for a penalty before the star pass happened.
Yeah.
Which would have invalidated it right away. And we've got Sinfully Sweet on her way into the penalty box as well. That's going to cut down the number of blockers available to Winnipeg. Makes it a little easier on Jerk of all skates to get through and grab 5 points.
So far for Duke City.
Ooh. Man, number 22, Tenacious V. a sweet low hip block to Winnipeg's jammer Lex, knocking her to the inside. That was the natural conclusion of the jam. A 13-point jam for Duke City, 6 points picked up by Winnipeg, and a team timeout being called for Winnipeg.
Yeah, Winnipeg probably looking to try and slow down the momentum that Duke's got going. It was a larger gap, now only 7 points separating the two teams. And Duke City, their jammers are now starting to solve the puzzle that is the Winnipeg defense.
There's always that first couple of jams where you're feeling each other out. And I think we're on the cusp of having felt each other out.
Of course, the infamous Shutter Up. We also have Gil Cromings and John Acosta.
So a slight adjustment on the scoreboard is now 46-37. Both teams adjusting on the fly. 17 and a half minutes to go until halftime. Again, this is the Mayday Mayhem tournament. The first day is group play, so that will allow for seeding before we get to the knockout phase. Both teams currently 1-0. Winner is in a really good shape to try and take that number 1 spot in this group number 2.
If you want to check out the seating in the pools and everything like that, you can find us on Facebook by searching Mayday Mayhem and download the image for yourself, or just listen to us tell you all about it. Coming through, ADD Meet crushes against 14 Demand a Brawl. She does have lead jammer. She's ever so slightly swallowed back into the pack, but she is out and free and clear.
And this is a power jam thanks to that penalty at the end of the jam being assessed against Lex Go. Meet knifing through the pack, grabs 5 points. Untouched as she went through. Winnipeg regains the services of Lex Go, but this is still her initial pass. And Meet trying to go outside, inside, outside, bouncing off of Sinfully Sweet. Then slides underneath on the outside for 4 points up in the air.
Oh no, we have a tie. Lex is zinging along, coming up to the back of the pack. She's entering it, and now it's called. It looks like Lex did pick up a couple more points. I believe that is a 3 for Winnipeg.
But 4 more picked up by Meet. That means we do have a full lead change. Score is now 50 for Duke City, 49 for Winnipeg.
Nice.
This kind of close action is kind of what I was expecting with teams that are ranked currently 115 and expected to come in around that same area.
Right. Winnipeg starting with a wall on the pivot line. They quickly take that kind of diamond formation, keeping 5'11" Seam Slayer from getting through in time, giving their own jammer the advantage, so Winnipeg does have lead.
Yeah, that's number 4'11", Pine Size Poison. Did confirm that she is 4'11" because that is her height.
That's great.
She is already through and in the middle of her scoring pass, senses that Seam Slayer is about to catch up, calls off the jam. Looks like 2 points being awarded for Winnipeg. That 1 point lead is now in the hands of Winnipeg instead of Duke City, 50-51. 15 minutes, 10 seconds to go.
Lead waffling.
Still 15 minutes to go here in the first.
It's all good. Scar 2 beat you on the line for Winnipeg, up against Banff for Duke City.
A couple of jammers who've both had a very good track record of picking up lead jammer status, and that Scar 2 beat you that grabs lead jammer this time around. Banff getting tangled up with Demand a Brawl in turn number 2.
Every time Scar 2 beat you has been out there, she has gotten lead jammer status. Let's see what she's going to do with it this time. She's going to go ahead and call it off. Banff was approaching the pack. Scar 2 Beachy was already through, so why not go ahead and call it up? It's another 5 points on the board for Winnipeg.
It's going to make the score 50-55. Winnipeg still can't be breathing easy. I mean, the 5 points are erased in a blink in roller derby. We've got 14 minutes to go in the first half. But sometimes it's just that hit it and quit it philosophy, that grab the 4, call it off, make sure your opponents don't get any.
Sure. Ooh, trying to take it on the outside. She did do so successfully. Put it on my tab. Taking a running start off that jammer line. Did take a little bit of a spill. Was called lead, and she is now coming through on her first. Oh my God.
Yeah, it looks like she's getting tangled up repeatedly. One of those times, actually right off the jam line, Killer Queen was sent off on a low block call. And looks like Jerk of all skates cutting the track. That is going to make this a power jam for Winnipeg and a chance for them to reassert the lead that they once had.
I really hope I'm not the only person that gets a little like, my stomach jumped when she hit the, did you hear it?
Each time.
Chunk. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't mean to gasp, but it's like literally like, ugh. Resilient ladies out here. Tab is back through again. Another 5 points on the board for Winnipeg. Her team just waiting in the back, waiting for this power jam to come to an end, which is right now. Killer Queen coming in, engaging. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not Killer Queen. Jerk of all skates. I apologize. Jerk coming back in, immediately engaging Winnipeg's jammer, but then being caught up in Winnipeg's defense as they've essentially got the jammer as a goat at this point. Well, not technically, but they've got her in a cage of human bodies.
She is surrounded by a mob of purple. That's Femme Fatale, Sinfully Sweet, Tenacious V, and Girl Meat. That foursome is just making life miserable for Jerk of all skates.
Yeah, it looked unpleasant. Team timeout being called by Duke City. That was an 18-point jam, another substantial jam by Winnipeg. Nothing picked up by Duke City that time.
And that extends the Winnipeg lead up to 23, 73 to 50, 12 minutes, 1 second to go.
We would really like to thank you all for tuning in for Duke City versus Winnipeg Roller Derby. If you love roller derby as much as we do, and I suppose you do if you're spending your Friday night watching it, right? Do consider using the donation tab you'll find on the page to give a couple of bucks back, because while there is no paywall, it still does cost a lot of money to put on these productions, and your donations can help ColoradoSports.TV recuperate those costs.
And if we get enough donations, then you can also help the announcers learn how to properly pronounce Muñecas Muertas.
Will they send us to a school for this?
It'll be a special school just for Derby announcers to learn how to properly pronounce the name of this team. Because we've all been tripping all over it all week.
I've left it. I'm like, it's Duke City. Got it. Nailed it. All right, here we're back in action. Got one Duke blocker in the box. That is 204 Lex for Winnipeg, out with lead jammer status.
And that is Meep recycled back behind the pivot line. And Lex Go already on a scoring pass. Payne Goodall on her way into the penalty box. That's going to knock down the pack of Winnipeg by 1. And Lex Go being assessed a track cut penalty. That's going to make this a power jam for Meep. Also full 2-minute jam, sacrificing the lead jammer status that Lex Go had with her penalty time.
Well, it looks like Winnipeg's bleeding out their blockers too. We've got a full box over there, so this may just be the power jam that Meep needs. She comes through with 5 points, starting to close up that gap.
Yeah, Duke City holding that 4-2 pack advantage right now. It looks like Winnipeg about to get a couple of skaters back. They have fewer than 10 seconds. They're both standing. But another 5 points in the air for Duke City.
Purple 204 right out of the box. Assessed in illegal procedure for an illegal re-entry. So it's going to be another 30-second power jam. Meep completely in control here, picking up another 5 points. So far, a 15-point jam due to this power jam. We do have all of Winnipeg's blockers back on the floor. Let's see if they're going to be able to keep her back effectively, because that's really all they can do at this point.
Yeah, that slight misstep done by Lex Go, that really opened the door for Duke City to claw back in. She is out, so they're not going to be starting the next jam without a jammer.
Then she tried to jump that apex right as the whistles were going. 5 more points on the board. Oops, sorry, 4 points on the board for Winnipeg.
It looks like those 4 points were picked up by Lex Go before her first trip to the penalty box. So
I gotcha.
Finally awarded, and 4 points also given to Duke City on that last pass. So what was once a 23-point lead is now 8. Winnipeg with 77, Duke City 69, 9.5 to go.
And we have an official timeout.
We're going to have an official timeout.
Relatively even between these two teams so far. One thing that has come into play, which not surprising, especially in modern derby, is those jammer penalties and the power jams. Both teams doing a good job maximizing their points, but also the penalty kills, keeping it from being a huge hurdle to cross.
Definitely, yeah. Both of these teams have made pretty effective use of their power jams, as you said. There's been a couple of times where during the power jam they've been able to hold the opposing jammer back and stop her from really racking it up. But this last 19-point jam has really put Duke City back as a contender against Winnipeg. Winnipeg's jammer coming through on the outside, sliding to the floor. That is Pint Size out there. She is not lead jammer due to a no pass, no penalty, even though she was out first. That does leave lead open for Seam Slayer from Duke City.
Yeah, that was Swearin Marie picking up a low block. Might have been a smart low block penalty to take, though, because it did prevent the lead jammer status from going to Winnipeg. Lead jammer status is now belonged to Duke City. Seam Slayer was able to complete her initial pass cleanly, so she's got lead jammer status, has full control of the clock and the jam.
Now she's bouncing her way through Winnipeg's blockers. All you got to do is press through one more. She's going to go ahead and call it off.
If she had known what was going on behind her, she might not have called it off, because Pint-Sized Poison was trying to pass the jammer cap.
This is a 4-point jam for Duke. 3 points picked up by Winnipeg, putting us 73-80 with just under 8.5 minutes left in this half.
Back and forth seesaw battle, very tight contest between these two teams, evenly matched. This is a great competition.
Each team is going to start with a blocker in the box. That is lead out first, Bamf from Duke City, followed closely behind by 1107 Scar 2 Beat You from Winnipeg.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the first time that Scar 2 Beat You has not secured lead jammer status.
That is true facts.
And looks like 2 points being awarded to each team, keeping that spread right where it's been for a while. So we're 7 points separating the two teams. We still have a lot of time in the first half and then a full 30-minute second half. It's almost a shame that the only way these teams can face each other again is in the championship.
Yeah. No, this is a really good bout. This is exactly the type of bout that I like to see.
And put it on my tab from Winnipeg, picking up lead jammer status. Jerk of all skates assessed a track cut penalty. That's going to make this a Winnipeg power jam. We'll see if what has been a trend before continues, with the team really being able to put the pressure on thanks to that jammer penalty. Put it on my tab already with 1 5-point scoring pass. And she's in the middle of another. Gets slowed down at the front by number 9, Kells Inferno. Does not stop completely. 5 more points.
Coming in on her next scoring pass. Again, her team is flanked on both sides, poised to bust through Duke's defenses for her. She's pushing her own way through this time. 5 more points on the board for Winnipeg.
And Jerk of all skates coming out of the penalty box, going clockwise, the shortest distance back to getting back into the fray. But she's kind of tangled with a tough Winnipeg defense, as so far we're seeing another 5 points being picked up by Put It On My Tab.
Put It On My Tab, putting one more Grand Slam on this jam.
And Winnipeg now losing 2 blockers.
Initial pass
Though it is Sinfully Sweet and Tenacious V both cooling their wheels in the penalty box for a little bit.
Tab is going to call that off. A 20-point jam for Winnipeg, which between either of the teams is the biggest jam that we have seen so far in this bout. It's pretty substantial. That also puts Winnipeg over the century mark, 75-102. We got about 5.5 minutes left in this half. 2 Winnipeg blockers in the box.
It's like just one from Duke City. So that's going to give Duke City a 3-2 pack advantage.
Duke City's Meep Meep lead jammer. Lex, they're stuck in the back trying to face off against Killer Queen.
Lex Go being slowed down at the front of the pack as well. I believe that's Gabriella Kem that's stifling her down a little bit. No, correction, that was Death Row at the front of the pack.
Looking to her bench on whether or not she should call it. Meep Meep makes that decision. 4 more points put on the board for Duke. Nothing picked up by Winnipeg.
Yeah, very quick. A lot of these jams going by, and even before the first 45 seconds are gone, we're seeing them being called off by the jammers. It's been a couple of minute 30, and then the few 2 minutes that have been forced by no lead jammer. But otherwise, relatively quick rotations on these jammer clocks.
An empty penalty box. What is this? We've got our 5-on-5 out there. Quite a struggle to get through that Winnipeg defense. Multiplayer block being called on Black 11.
That is Killer Queen going to the penalty box. Seam Slayer trying to fight through at the front of the pack. Pine Size Poison at the back. Seam Slayer does pick up lead jammer status for Duke City.
And that is going to be lead jammer for
using a Winnipeg blocker to the box. Now each team 3-3. Another Winnipeg blocker being sent to the box. That means they're going to start with half of their defenses in this next jam. 4 more points on the board for Duke City. Nothing picked up by Winnipeg that time.
The Muñecas Muertas pulling their way back in. 102-83 now. 3 minutes, 30 seconds left in the first half.
So as I said, Winnipeg is going to start with just 2 blockers on the track. Doesn't prove to be much of a problem for Banff. Duke City does have lead jammer. That is Skartu Bichu coming through, taking a whip off of D3.
And Death Row picking up a penalty. That's going to equalize the packs for at least a little while. Not too much longer. Looks like there are blockers from each team standing in the penalty box.
3-0 jam. Timeout. Oh, sorry. Official review being called by Duke, which hopefully we'll have information on soon.
Each team with 3 timeouts per half, well, per game, and then 1 official review per half. If you're successful with your official review, you get it back once. So you could,
I think you can just repeatedly get it back. I thought it was that.
You could only theoretically have 2 per half.
Okay. I guess I never really thought it through.
It also requires being successful the first time, and with all the derby I've watched, it's quite tricky actually to be successful with any regularity on your official review.
There you go.
Not an easy test.
But we'll see what comes out of this. Duke City challenging something that will, it could lead to a change of score, it could lead to a change of penalty situation. Both are very important. Only 16 points separating the 2 teams. It's 102-86, and we're getting close to the end of that half.
Looks like it's time for the referees to confer, come to their decision. In the meantime, I'd once again like to thank you for tuning in. And if you are enjoying our broadcast, we've got 2 tracks out here. You can donate a couple of bucks to ColoradoSports.TV.
So once again, this is the Mayday Mayhem 2015. This is the 5th year that the Slaughterhouse Derby Girls have put on this tournament in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. And this tournament is set up. There are 14 teams, WFTDA teams, that are playing for number 1 spot overall and trying to win the tournament. Today and the first half of tomorrow is group play. They're going to be playing against each other in sort of a round robin. Not quite playing the entire group, but it's going to determine seeding before we get to the knockout phase. That knockout phase starts tomorrow afternoon. There's also a consolation bracket, so everyone that's playing today, they're going to have at least one more game after all of the round robin is done. Also tomorrow, we've got men's derby happening here at Mayday Mayhem 2015. And on Sunday, we're bringing out junior derby.
Of 2 junior derby bouts.
Yeah, there are three men's bouts tomorrow, 2 junior derby bouts on Sunday. It's a full weekend here on Mother's Day weekend. If it's anything like last year on Mother's Day itself, you'll want to be on your computer, especially if you're in Colorado, because it's going to be a blizzard.
Oh, shush. Don't jinx us, man.
We have heard, luckily, the snow is supposed to miss us by at least a little bit, which means it'll just make a blizzard in Wyoming. So if you're in Wyoming, tune in to ColoradoSports.TV on Sunday and make sure that you're watching the tournament from your home in the comfort of your house.
Also, call your mom. We got 2 of, I should say 3 Winnipeg blockers in the box. I thought it's meep, get through. No contest on that one. Lead jammer to Winnipeg. Followed about half a lap behind by Put It On My Tab from Winnipeg. We did start off with 3 of Winnipeg's blockers in the box. Like I said, 2 standing, 1 sitting. Meep's going to call that off. 2 points on the board for Duke City. Nothing picked up by Winnipeg. It's all right, you know, sometimes nickel and diming your way up to close that gap is perfectly fine. The gap is not too far at this point.
It's effective. It's within reach of 1 big jam, 3-4 smaller jams, 102 to 88. 2 minutes left in the first half. And now the tables have turned as Lex Go picking up lead jammer status for Winnipeg, but very quickly out after her is Seam Slayer from Duke City. And Duke City has emptied their side of the penalty box. Still 1 Winnipeg blocker in the box.
This hadn't really been a very penalty-heavy bout until all of the sudden, like, all of the blockers have gone to the box. Speaking of which, that's number 206, Payne Goodall, having a seat in the box for Winnipeg. 3 points on the board. Oops, so far, 4 points on the board for Duke. 3 points that time for Winnipeg, bringing us up 92 to 105 with just about 1:10 left in this half.
But again, just cutting down that lead ever so slightly.
Right.
There's a slim chance we'll see 2 more jams the way that these teams have been playing and how the jams have been going.
They're quick.
We're definitely guaranteed 1 more, but also both teams still sitting with enough timeouts that they could decide to use timeout. And there's a back block call that's being assessed. Not seeing against who it is. Against number 22, Tenacious V from Winnipeg.
Gibbs Banff is out. Lead jammer Duke. Winnipeg's jammer right. They're best friends right now, frankly.
Pint-sized poison is currently Banff's shadow, which is also appropriate because often shadows are slightly smaller than the traditional.
It looks like Duke City was sneaking 2 points there.
2 points for Duke City. Unless there is a timeout. I whispered into the microphone, unless there's a timeout right now, this would be the last jam. Trying to keep secrets over here. Every time I say something, it happens.
And that
not that
brings
time,
us
though.
to halftime.
All right.
No timeout called. Score of 105 to 94. You highlighted exactly. Started out very clean and has become a penalty-filled game.
You know, Winnipeg is, I mean, even though, okay, so Winnipeg's been bleeding blockers these last couple of jams. Even so, they've managed to maintain a lead. Now, that lead is shrinking as Duke City is being pulling out these 2-point jams, 2-point jams, 4-point jams, 3-point jams. They're not substantial jams, but they're enough to, like I said, nickel and dime their way up, close that gap up, and maybe we'll see a lead change in the first couple of jams of the second half. Or maybe we'll see both teams regroup and come out with completely new strategies adapted to how each other play.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's going to be the halftime adjustment. This is the second game of the day for both of these teams. So you wonder if maybe the penalties are coming because there's a little bit of fatigue that's coming into play.
Yeah. Could be. Well, we are at halftime. We'll be back in about 9 minutes.
Oh, yes.
I forget to say myself a lot, which is weird.
To outro it. Welcome back to ColoradoSports.TV. We are broadcasting live from Mayday Mayhem 2015 in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. I am Wilhelm Scream.
I am Julia Sleazer.
We are sitting with a score of 105 for Winnipeg Roller Derby All-Stars and 94 for Duke City Muñecas Muertas.
These two teams, as we mentioned earlier, current ranking for Duke City 115, Winnipeg not currently ranked. They are expected to come in around 93 according to Flat Track Stats after, is it after this bout or after this tournament?
Well, after this tournament, they should have enough momentum and there should be enough bouts and really mostly enough time to have them placed somewhere into the WFTDA
90-ish
rankings.
area, which is pretty exciting. So far, we're seeing a lot of great strategy for both of the teams, of course. We're about to get the action back underway. This has been a fairly close bout. Of course, power jams have come into play quite a bit. But these last several jams have been a lot of Duke shoring up this point differential by getting 4, calling it 4, calling it 3, 2, 4, 2, calling it after these short jams. So we're having a lot of jams that only last maybe 30 seconds at a maximum. I'm not sure if we're going to see that going back into the second half, but we are underway. That is Banff up front for Duke with lead jammer status.
Scar2D2 on her way to the penalty box thanks to a track cut, but she's also holding up near her ear.
Uh-oh.
So looks like she at least was indicating she got hit up a little bit high and no penalty assessed. Meanwhile, Banff on a power jam has already picked up 5 points for Duke City. And then Banff runs into, I believe that is number 9, Sinfully Sweet, gets dropped down. That's going to slow her momentum a little bit and eat some of that penalty time as Scar2D2 already up on her feet.
Bam trying out the spin and win, gets through. That is 5 more points on the board for Duke City. As Banff comes back through, this power jam is at an end. Scar2D2 is back in play, and she approaches, just slams her butt right into a whole wall of Duke.
Now, one of the important things, though, is that this is still her initial pass. Scar2D2 has not completed the pass. Meanwhile, Banff is lead jammer and is in full control. Scar2D2 now around, completing the initial scoring pass.
Now this is also important. Banff has been recycled back. Scar2D2 coming up on her initial. If Banff could have gotten through, she probably could have got a whole nother pass, but Winnipeg was effective at keeping her back, recycling her back to the back, not letting her get through. Regardless of that, that is a 15-point jam for Duke and a lead change.
That's going to put the score 109 to 105. One of the few jams that have lasted longer than a minute in this game. So 109-105. Also very different from the games that these teams played earlier today. Both teams on the winning side of blowouts. And, this being very close makes it a very different style of play for both teams. And right there, we've got a very quick start out and put it on my tab, picking up lead jammer status for Winnipeg. Meep Meep jamming for Duke City.
Tab getting through 5 points. Meep Meep seems to be hung up in the pack right now.
And Meep Meep just got tangled up with D3PO. D3PO had to cycle back, but Looks like Meep Meep on a track cut penalty. That's going to be a power jam for Put It On My Tab. We're trading power jams to start the second half. And already there's been a 10 points picked up by Put It On My Tab, and she's in the middle of the pack looking to make it 15.
Tab leaning her full weight on these Duke ladies, incapable of getting through. She's trying to juke around them. All she's got to do is either get these two with the out-of-play call, and there we go. They have to let her go. That's another 5 big points for Winnipeg, bringing them up 120. So, of course, in this jam, we've had another lead change. We're having the lead waffling. Meep Meep is back in play. She is met with a full wall of Winnipeg's blockers who seem to be ready for her. Duke's blockers don't seem as interested in helping break up that wall as they do holding back Winnipeg's jammer. And Meep Meep is now through on her initial. Winnipeg's going to go ahead and call that off. Nothing picked up by Duke. I think that's going to be an 18-point jam for Winnipeg, 109 to 123.
Another lead change. It's just back and forth, seesaw battle. Winnipeg grabbing the lead, but neither team has really been able to completely assert dominance so far. 123 to 109 with just under 26 minutes to go.
Winnipeg's jammer trying to find her way through initially on the inside. Now she's trying to make a gap through Duke's blockers.
And Seam Slayer, the left skate just barely coming outside, but that's enough. That is a track cut penalty. If Lex Go can find her way through, she will be able to start this power jam as lead jam. So far, good job by Duke City, really stifling her. She now completes the initial pass, but took a full 35 seconds before she was able to get through and grab that lead jammer status.
She's coming in. Once again, we've got Winnipeg flanking on either side, busting up Duke's defenses as their jammer comes through. 5 points on the board for Winnipeg.
Yeah, watching how the Winnipeg blockers work together on these power jams, showing why they're so effective on power jams. That they slow the pack down to allow the jammer to catch up, and then they engage and seal off the opposing blockers to create a little bit of an opening. And now they're going to step back. They see that Seam Slayer is already back on the track. Her penalty time over.
As you said, they are ready in the back, concentrated in their sort of diamond formation. Seam Slayer is through on her initial as Winnipeg's jammer comes in, calls it off after sliding into the pack. Nothing picked up by Duke. Another 3 points on the board for Winnipeg, bringing us 109 to 131 with just over 24 minutes left in this game.
And timeout being called by Duke City. As they were coming towards us on that last jam, it was probably the best example of the difference in jammer styles between the two teams. If we were seeing the Winnipeg jammer trying to go left and right and find the opening and draw the blockers to her, and the Duke City jammer was basically just putting her head down and trying to get enough steam going to split apart the Winnipeg wall.
Right. It's a matter of juking versus making your own hole, barreling through those walls. Either can be effective given the correct situation. So again, we are in a team timeout for Duke. Of course, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. If you're just now tuning in, we are in Duke City versus Winnipeg.
Duke City, a founding member of WFTDA. Winnipeg has only been a member of WFTDA since December.
Yeah. So good on them.
So a little bit of difference in history within the organizations.
Sure.
But right now, both very competitive with each other, and this is potentially, if the score stands as it currently does in the same kind of way, Winnipeg could be the first team that's at this tournament that face Duke City to give Duke City a loss.
Speaking of Duke City, that is Banff up there, lead jammer. In the meantime, Winnipeg's jammer, I believe that is Pint Size, is out of the pack. As she approaches the back of the pack, Banff is going to call it off, picking up 2 points for Duke City.
2 points for
That's going to make the score 131 to 111. And one thing that we know that Duke City does know is they definitely know tournament play. I mean, they participated in the very first Dust Devil tournament back in 2006. This year alone, this is already the 3rd tournament that they have played in. You know, they went to Dust Devil in March. They were at Mythical Invitation in April. So they understand tournament play and they understand how to work with the fatigue that's going to come naturally. You know, Winnipeg hasn't done a lot of tournaments that we're aware of, but they're going to try and just, you know, find a way. And Scar2 Beachu finds a way there, picking up lead jammer status.
That is Meep Meep for Duke City out there on her initial as Scar2D2 enters the pack on her first scoring pass. One of Winnipeg blockers being called to the box on a back block. Scar2 is going to go ahead and call that off. I think that is 4 points on the board for Winnipeg.
Score of 135 to 111. Again, very quick jam, very quick turnover. We've got just under 22 and a half minutes to go in the second half of action. This is going to be already setting up for our 5th or 6th jam in the second half, and we haven't even gone 8 minutes.
Yeah, we've got these short jams. I mean, we started off with that 15-point jam and an 18-point jam, and now these last 3 jams, 3, 2, 4. So I think we're going to get back to these quick jams. Tab out there for Winnipeg up towards the front of the pack. She is declared lead for Winnipeg.
Yeah, Seamslayer just absorbing a hit from Payne Goodall to fight her way through and complete her initial pass. As once again, we're starting to see a little bit of a pattern with one Winnipeg blocker going to the box, and then a second one tends to join not terribly long after, as now that is Demanda Brawl.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been to the box, but it gets lonely, and a good friend will come with you.
And, you know, Winnipeg, they're Canadian, so there's a very polite feel of...
Yeah. It's not so much about the penalties. It's more about the camaraderie.
So the score is still 135 to 111. Just over 21 minutes to go. We're starting jam number 7 of the second half.
Banff out there up front is lead jammer Duke City.
Banff has been very effective at finding those holes. Lex Go trying to find one and trying to push through, just creates an opening of her own.
Sometimes that's the way to go. Lex is through on her initial. She's coming up. Banff is at the back of the pack, sees Lex coming and just goes ahead and calls it off. 3 more points on the board for Duke. Nothing picked up that time by Winnipeg. Again, just like we saw in the end of the first half, it looks like Duke's going to be pulling these short couple of point jams over and over and over, which is a completely effective way to close up the score.
Oh, exactly, especially as long as the clock is still on your side. And with 20 minutes left, it's not dire straits yet for Duke City. As that jam expired, Demanda Brawl was released from the penalty box, so we've got an empty penalty box, 4 blockers on each side. And it's
just as
all
you say
over.
that.
Just like last time, we mentioned the empty penalty box and a multiplayer penalty is called. That is being assessed to Rants in Your Pants from Winnipeg.
There's a second Winnipeg blocker being sent to the box. A third Winnipeg blocker is going to have to get into queue.
There's no room at the end. Meanwhile, Meep picking up lead jammer status for Duke City, and already with 5 points.
5 points for Duke City.
Meanwhile, I believe that is Pint-Sized Poison.
Yeah.
Was trying to find a seam and just unable to do so. She's actually disappearing behind the black wall and now looking for her pivot to pass the star off to, but good
She
defense.
does have it. The pivot has it in hand, has not placed it on her helmet. Looks like something is amiss. She's being sent to the box. Panty's still in hand. She does drop it on the floor, so once Pint Size gets back up that way, she can retrieve it. Of course, the other team can be totally evil and stand over it, but I've noticed that happens more in men's derby than women's.
And Meep's already piling up points as this has been happening. In fact, I don't even know if Pint Size Poison is aware that the jammer cap is down. Now she sees it. She picks up the cap. She's going to put that back on her head, become the active jammer once again. But Meep has clawed Duke City back in. Currently 1 point separating the two teams. And Meep on another scoring pass. And Pint Size Poison still hasn't actually completed the initial pass. Meep grabs another 5 points as another lead change, 139 to 135, 18 minutes to go. Huge jam.
Yeah, just an amazing jam for Meep. Oh, it looks like it's a 24-point jam, incidentally. There's a team timeout being called by Winnipeg. You should point out, throughout this whole game, between either team, that jam was the highest scoring jam that we've seen so far.
I was impressed when it was a 25-point jam. When they took away a point, made it a 24-point jam, I was still impressed. Because she did it with the opposing jammer still on the track the entire time. There was that moment where there was no jammer for Winnipeg.
It was short-lived, though.
Exactly.
It wasn't terribly long. Yeah, this was a huge jam that didn't involve power jam.
Right.
Exactly.
And penalties still played a part, but it was her defense really stifling Pint Size Poison, making sure that she couldn't get through. And then they did a great job when the star pass was being attempted to knock her pivot and force the pivot to get a penalty, which basically told Pint Size Poison, yeah, you're still jammer, sorry.
Right. Well, luckily, that jammer panty being dropped to the ground, because I've seen a couple of times, it breaks my heart when the pivot is going to the box, has that panty in hand, and then really not much can go from there.
And probably the location that was dropped as well. It ended up working out in their favor when Pint Size Poison was the last member of the bridge. Get extended further. If she hadn't been there, she might not have ever noticed that the jammer cap was down. But back to the action here. We've got Scar2 Beat You picking up lead jammer status for Winnipeg. And that is Seam Slayer fighting through and completing her initial pass for the Duke City Muñecas Muertas.
Featherstone being sent to the box for Duke City on a blocking counter to play. 4 more points on the board for Duke. Oh, sorry, I lied. Winnipeg. So we have a 1-point lead change.
And that makes that scoring correction from 25 to 24 of utmost importance, with Winnipeg holding a 139 to 138 lead. But there's still a lot of time left. 17 minutes. If you've been enjoying this game, and how could you not be?
Right.
Click the donate button. Give a little bit to ColoradoSports.TV. Help defray the cost of allowing you to watch this tournament from wherever you might be.
Muscling her way through the back. That is Tab, lead jammer for Winnipeg. Banff jamming for Duke City, having trouble getting past Winnipeg's defenses. They have bridged back and are ready to slide out whatever direction she might be coming. Tab is lead. She's recycled back to the back. She takes a running start, tries to, she gets through on the outside, but 1 foot out of bounds. She needs to make a decision on where she's going to come in. Looks like she's just going to go ahead and call it off instead. Could be safer. 5 points picked up by Winnipeg, so seems legit from here. How's that?
That's going to pick the score 144-138. D3PO making some big hits against Banff, really stopping her and slowing her down. On the reverse side, Swearin' Marie made sure that there wasn't too many points picked up by Winnipeg. We've got an official timeout being called. And looks like, if I'm seeing correctly, it is a track cut penalty that is being assessed after the jam was over. So they want to make sure. And that is going against Put It On My Tab, and she's was
going
jammer.
As the jammer.
That's going to put Duke City on a power jam with only 6 points separating the two teams.
We got just 15:59 is where the clock is stopped right now. A close score. a power jam to start for Duke.
And Meep on the jam line for Duke City.
And that is going to be 8.
Winnipeg holding a 4-3 pack advantage, but it's
In a power jam for Duke City.
they are facing a very tough jammer.
For them to get back up on top.
It is their foursome of blondes, however. Tenacious V, Sinfully Sweet. Two of the tandem also up front is Femme Fatale and Girl Meat. Girl Meat assessed a penalty. And so is Femme Fatale. What was once a pack advantage in favor of Winnipeg has now become a pack advantage in favor of Duke City.
Tab is back in play. That power jam is over. She made quick time at getting through on her initial. Meep is coming through on her first scoring pass. Winnipeg did a great job of holding her up and burning the time off that clock. Only 4 points picked up by Duke City on that power jam.
Yeah, Meep seemingly didn't appreciate some of the hits she was taking from Tenacious V. Kind of just counter-blocked her out of the way to pick up those points. 142 to 144. And just under 15 minutes left. We are past the halfway point of the second half.
City going up against 204. Let's get him. Let's go. Actually.
As Lex Go jamming for Winnipeg and Seam Slayer picking up lead jammer status for Duke City.
Lex in a kind of fast-paced pack, trying to get past the last couple of blockers, and she is through on her initial just as Seam is coming in for her first scoring pass. She takes the inside, goes out of bounds.
Seam Slayer was
it off, but also gets a track kite after.
I was just about to say she needs to be careful with that call off because she was stepping back onto the track from it would have been an illegal position, which is why she's being assessed the track cut as the jam was expiring. And right now we've got a tie score, 144 to 144.
We're at 13:39 on the clock. We will have a power start Winnipeg. Winnipeg's blockers just going nuts right off the bat, trying to get their jammer through. Duke's remaining blockers that aren't in the box swarming around. Scar2 B2 is lead jammer. All 4 of her blockers on the track, 3 of Duke City's blockers out there. Again, they are flanked and poised to get her through, but she jumps that apex, picking up 5 points for Winnipeg.
Tenacious V was almost setting up as a decoy, saying, no, she's going to come to the inside. I'm going to create the opening. And now Scar2 Bichu going around the outside, ducking underneath, dodging from Doom De Doom. Another 5 points grabbed for Winnipeg. And Seam Slayer out of the box and looking for that star pass. Another 4 points grabbed by Scar2 Bichu.
Not sure what's going on with that star pass up front.
Well, either way, there's currently an inactive jammer for Duke City.
Right.
I believe that's Doom De Doom that has it in her hand.
There we go.
Scar2 Bichu, another 5 points, and Doom De Doom cycled back, pushed to the infield. Scar2 Bichu trying to cut on the inside, gets blocked to the inside by Seam Slayer. It's going to force her to recycle back, but she's allowed Winnipeg to open up that lead once again, just as Duke had tied it. Scar2 Bichu calling off the jam. It's like 4 more points being awarded. So a 23-point jam.
There we go.
What was once a tie is now a 23-point lead. Winnipeg 167, Duke 144 in this seesaw battle.
Yeah, again, we've got these high point scoring jams as you would expect with the power start. But I mean, a minute ago we had a power start and only 4 points were picked up by Duke because of Winnipeg's defenses. This time we have a power start, 23 points picked up by Winnipeg.
And it's gone back and forth. You can't guarantee either team is going to have that advantage. Right now we've got That is Put It On My Tab, who is out front first, but not lead jammer. No pass, no penalty situation. That means lead jammer goes to Banff, and Banff quickly calling off the jam, not wanting to take a risk and let Put It On My Tab get any points. Which means all we lost that time was a little bit of time off the clock.
Speaking of time, we've got just under 11 minutes left. Current score 144, 167 in favor of Winnipeg. We've got one Duke blocker in the box, otherwise 3-on-4 pack advantage to Winnipeg.
That is Pint-Sized Poison bursting through the pack, picking up lead jammer for Winnipeg. And jamming for Duke City, that is Jerk of All Skates.
It's been a while since she's been out there.
And looks like she is looking for a star pass, looking for number 9, Kel's Inferno. And there's a track cut penalty being assessed against Pint-Sized Poison. That's going to put Duke City on the power jam, but right now, inactive jammer, the power jam's not going to help them. And the Winnipeg defense is going to make life miserable on Jerk of All Skates. Jerk completing the pass, finally going to put that star cap back on.
We are going to have that full 2-minute jam, of which we have about 1:07 left. Winnipeg just swarming on her.
Once again, that tandem we've seen so many times of Sinfully Sweet, Tenacious V, Girl Meat, and Femme Fatale. Those four combining as just a foursome of pain for the Muñecas Muertas jammers.
One has fallen back, getting ready to attack Duke's defenses.
And they successfully killed off that penalty so well that Jerk of All Skates wasn't out and completing the scoring pass, the first scoring pass, until Pint-Sized Poison was already back in the pack and engaged with the Duke City blockers. That time around, though, different story. Jerk of All Skates leveled up in the last pass, grabs all 5.
Here she comes, Jerk, slipping and sliding side to side, putting another 4 points on the board for Duke City. That is the natural conclusion of the jam. Another 4 points also picked up by Winnipeg.
And Winnipeg also did the star pass, realizing that it wasn't going to hurt them at that point and was going to give them a little bit of help. Femme Fatale finishing off the jam. Score of 174 to 157. 8 minutes, 20 seconds to go, and 17 points separating these two teams.
It's going to be Meat now on the jammer line.
Meat out there for Duke City. Let's go for Winnipeg.
Meat trying to lean on Payne Goodall on the outside. And Lex Go recycled back, has to go back deep. Almost all the way back to turn number 3. Again, you're seeing that bracing defense being employed, and Winnipeg just stifling Meat. Lex was pulled all the way back, and now Lex is fighting ahead of her with pack members.
Neither jammer is through yet, and it's been right now 40 seconds into this jam.
Yeah, it's at the point where numerous of the previous jams, they'd be already calling it off after having gathered 4 points.
Here's one of our longer jams.
And finally, a seal-off done by D3PO. That allows Lex Go to fight through, pick up the lead jammer status. It does lead to a penalty for D3PO, but sometimes penalties are smart to take, and that was one of those moments.
I think that's the longest time I've seen taken to get the lead jammer status.
And Lex Go pushed to the infield, calling off the jam. Does pick up 3 points. That's going to extend their lead 177 to 157 with just under 7 to go.
We have one Winnipeg blocker in the box. So we're going to start 3 to 4 pack advantage Duke City. Winnipeg sliding up to that pivot line. Winnipeg's jammer, I think that's pint size out there, takes a running start, but it doesn't work out. Seam, number 5'11", from Duke City is lead jammer.
Now that jammer for Winnipeg is Scartu Beat You.
Oh, my bad.
But either way, the lead jammer is still the same. Seam Slayer was attempting to call it off. Does not succeed in calling off the jam before she is assessed a track cut penalty. That is going to make this a full 2-minute jam and a power jam for Winnipeg and Scartu Beat You. And Scartu Beat You flies through the air with the greatest of ease, puts 5 points on her flying trapeze, extending their lead to 187-157. I don't know where that came from, I'm sorry.
No, that was amazing.
Another 5 points picked up by Scartu Beat You. Meanwhile, we've got Seam Slayer standing in the penalty box. She's got fewer than 10 seconds left.
From Scartu Beat You.
That power jam is over. Back in comes Seam Slayer.
And Scartu Beat You passing the star off to D3PO because droids want to get together with droids. So we've got a new jammer for Winnipeg. And if I'm not mistaken, those two are sisters, which would also explain why they're that particular inspiration on both of their names.
I thought they were just super rad. I love how many Star Wars names there are in roller derby. So I always appreciate a good Star Wars name. This is going to turn into another power jam. Seam Slayer being sent to the box. Looks like she's back block is being issued on her.
Yeah, Seam Slayer's been having a little bit of penalty trouble over the last few jams that she's been out as the jammer. Two of them were track cuts where she just didn't seem to have awareness about where she was when she was attempting to call off the jam. Either that or she thought the jam rests were just that quick on the call off. She's kind of maneuvered her way back onto the track. That time back block, now it's 196 to 160. 4 minutes left to go, and Winnipeg going to start out in that power jam situation.
Actually, it looks like there was a couple more points popped up on there that puts Winnipeg right on the 200 mark. So we're at 160 to 200. Sneaky points on the inside, just running for it. Just tab, lead jammer, Winnipeg.
And now we're at the point with the score differential and the time left on the clock, we can start seeing the teams work on clock management as well. You know, Winnipeg now not quite in as much danger. They can just milk the clock and let it run down for a while. We'll see if they actually start doing that. Put it on my tab. 5 points in the air, and knowing that Seam Slayer is still on an initial pass, another 5 points grab. Oh, correction, only 4 points grab. I put it on my tab that time.
How is the jam clock not? There is an error with the scoreboard right now where the jam clock is not going and the points from the previous jam are still accruing. Luckily, we have brilliant NSOs in the middle with stopwatches to take care of business just like this.
Exactly.
So it was a 23-point jam, last jam for Winnipeg. So
and then 13 this
right.
jam. So we've got a score of 213 to 160, just about 2.5 minutes to go. And an official timeout being called. If I had to hazard a guess, I would assume this official timeout is to fix whatever's going on with the scoreboard.
I've never seen anything like that. So the jam clock wasn't running. If the jam clock's not running, but the game clock is running, there's usually something going on with the jam clock, either counting up to the next jam, the 30 seconds, or counting for a timeout or something like that. That was just, I don't know, that was really super weird. So yeah, I imagine this timeout, as you pointed out, is to address that issue. It did appear the game clock was still going, and since the jam timer out there, the gentleman standing on the line, showing the official timeout, does have both a game clock and a jam clock. There's no need to despair.
Exactly. He had everything, made sure they had the right numbers.
I was like, what's going on?
So we're starting this 2.5 minutes ago. Let's Go and Meep Meep are your jammers. Right now, Duke City, they can't be satisfied with only a 2 or 3 point chip away. They need a big jam if they're going to get themselves back into it. And right now, Let's Go being content to sit back. I mean, not trying to force the issue. Now that might change our story a little bit. Meep Meep grabbing lead jammer status. And a penalty, looks like a forearm penalty being assessed to Killer Queen from Duke City. So both teams sending one blocker to the box. A Sinfully Sweet also in there from Winnipeg.
5 points for Duke City.
Meep Meep grabbing 5 points on that pass. Let's Go still has not completed her initial pass and recycled back once again. Meep Meep, 5 more points. This is along the lines of what Duke City needed, but the star has been passed to D3PO. That allows the initial pass for Winnipeg to be completed. Meep Meep knifes through, grabs 4, calls off the jam. Closing that gap. 213 to 174.
A 14-point jam for Duke City.
Great jam there for Duke City.
It's a really good jam for Duke City. It's been a while. Well, I guess it's only been a couple of 4 jams since they've had a really hard-hitting number of points like that, putting us 174 to 213. There's 46 seconds left on this jam clock. So unless some magical feat occurs, I believe this will be the last jam of this extraordinary game.
And it's 30 points, 39 points separating the two teams. And that's Banff jamming against Scar2 Beat You. And Scar2 Beat You knifes out, picks up lead jammer status. She is in full control. She's got 20 seconds left on the period clock. She did actually, as she skated past the scoreboard, she made a quick check of the period clock. Takes a hit that brought a hand to her face, but she is just fine. Looks like she's going to go and complete a scoring pass. Gets bounced to the inside by number 6, Featherstone.
I think you're onto something, though. I think she had intent to run down that period clock. She turns around, looks at that big goose egg, and calls it off. 4 more points on the board for Winnipeg. Nothing picked up that time by Duke.
I believe that's going to make the final. We're going to wait for it to be officially updated on the scoreboard, but I'm believing it's 217 to 174. Hard fought, close bout between these two teams. Winnipeg is going to come out on top. You know, again, this tournament is. This game actually was only the 3rd sanctioned game that they've played
ever,
and they have now entered 2-0. They're in really good shape to try and take that top spot in pool number 2, going into the knockout phase.
Well, this was a win clearly for Winnipeg. It wasn't as brutal as when they faced off earlier in the day against Slaughterhouse. A little more evenly matched, perhaps. We are waiting for the official final as everyone gets their free high fives, which is, you know, one of the best things you can get in Derby or in life.
But it was 2 teams that fought, and we now have the official final. Officially, Winnipeg Roller Derby 217. The All-Stars taking down Duke City Muñecas Muertas 174 for Duke City. We'll see what comes out of tomorrow's play. Both these teams are done for today. They'll be back tomorrow. Winnipeg right now 2-0 in group play. Duke City 1-1.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found this bout as exciting as we did. I am Julia Sleazer.
I am Wilhelm Scream, and you're watching Mayday Mayhem 2015 on ColoradoSports.TV.